BIAFRA Alpha Power Media International.
Good evening, great BIAFRans and wonderful people. I welcome you this evening once again. It is Radio Biafra and this is Hello Motherland. It is Constructive Argument with MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA this evening, the first day of October 2022, the year of our Lord. Chineke alusigolo ya. Obodo Biafra kulugokwano. But I think the only thing that is holding us back is us. We are holding ourselves back. We need to be worthy. We need to be counted worthy to enter that promised land, that land that flows with milk and honey, the land of Biafra. As for God, as for Elohim, He have done everything He is supposed to do. He have given us that land, and we know we are able to go and possess that land. My goodness me. Because it is a land that was bequeathed to our ancestors, time immemorial. It is not under any controversy at all who owns the land, because the land belongs to us. Remember the children of Israelites. They wasted time in the wilderness. They wasted time in the desert, not because they couldn't get there in 3 days, but because of their immorality, but because of the evil in their mind. And Elohim said, I am going to double your years. It will now take you around 41 years or 40 years for you to get to that promised land. And that is the same fate we are about to suffer if we don't redress our steps. As for Chineke na, onye pụrụ m ihe niile, ekekere ụwa, He has done that which He was supposed to do. He has sealed, He has signed and delivered Biafra to us. What are we waiting for? Because only the clean in heart shall inhabit Biafra. No evil man shall inhabit Biafra. Chineke alusigwa n'ọlụ ya. Once again, I want to welcome you. It is Radio Biafra, and this is Constructive Argument. And of course, before I usher in our guest this evening, and of course, you know who is Dr. Justice UKACHI-LOISE, all the way from the United Kingdom. He is the man that knows his history, and he will be piecing it bit by bit, my goodness me, telling us what is what. And this evening, if time permits, I want to make it an interactive session. I want to open the line as well and allow you to call in at his request, because remember, in order for us to open lines, the guest must approve of it, because the guest in the studio. And if the guest is willing to take your questions, why not? My job is just to do as told, because I wouldn't do Josie. And he have instructed me this evening that he will love to take calls from Biafrans who have any historical or history-related question this evening. And that is exactly what I'm going to do, even if it takes us 10 or 2 minutes or whatever the case may be. But before we proceed, there is a request he made. He wants me to play one of those oldies, one of those old schools, one of those old songs that resonate with us for those who knows their history, for those who understand the word Biafra, for those who understand the carnage, the destruction that we faced in those days. Let me see if I can be able to play this request from the good doctor, because I have to make sure my guest is happy so that he will be able to deliver this evening. So let's see if we can be able to play this request of his. Let's see. And as soon as that is done, I will bring him up this evening, because it is indeed so constructive arguments. This is Constructive Argument on Radio Biafra with MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA. Bring your argument and we've got the solution. Constructive Argument. We hit below the belt. Radio Biafra. We've got you covered. This is Constructive Argument on Radio Biafra with MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA. Bring your argument and we've got the solution. Constructive Argument. We hit below the belt. Radio Biafra. We've got you covered. All right, welcome back, of course. We've got you covered. It is Radio Biafra, saturating the whole of humanity. Trust me, you cannot get lost. In case you're wondering where you can listen this evening, you can listen to us on Radio Biafra Community Radio app. You can also go to our platform, Radio Biafra London, or you can go, of course, to any platform on Facebook, because we are everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And without wasting any much of our time, let me go straight to the doctor and see if I can get hold of him. Good evening, doctor. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Mazi. Hi.
Welcome back again on this platform. It is Constructive Argument. Biafrans are waiting. We are listening. Please, doctor, go ahead.
I greet you all this evening. All Biafrans, even the enemy can listen in, and all lovers of freedom. Greeting to you all. Thank you. Before I begin, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Mazi, am I coming out clearly?
Loud and clear, and I can assure you humanity are listening. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Well, today we continue on the journey. We have got to 30th of May in last broadcast when Biafra was declared. I hope if you follow the series, you understand the reasoning and the background to that declaration. It took a 1 full year from May 66 massacres to May 30th, 1967, before Biafra was declared. When Biafra was declared, the music that MAZI IKECHUKWU played for us was really a celebration, because we moved from Onwuzurua, which literally tried to dampen the pain we were going through at the time, to Ojukwu, thank you. Biafra has come to stay. So there was a celebrative sort of component to our existence from the 30th of May onwards. Not that we knew all the facts or all the background situation. There are very few people who knew how vulnerable Biafra was. But to every man on the street, that was it. We have now arrived. Ojukwu once said that being a sprinter himself, is like waiting for the gun to go. And, the status pistol, and if you're sprinting, if you understand what I'm talking about, if you're an athlete. So as soon as the gun goes, you just take off and start sprinting and show the world what you can do. That was the attitude Biafrans had. We now got our own country. We're now going to show the world what we're made up of. And why? Because, well, Nigeria, the Northerners have always wanted to be away from Nigeria. So they're the ones who've been playing to secede, and we've been holding Nigeria. The Westerners, Yoruba, always wanted to do the one nation. So now that they engineered in such a way that Biafrans, the Easterners, are now the ones that have left, is a bit like good riddance. Nigeria can now do what it likes. So the Igbos have left. Well, it wasn't quite like that, was it? Because those who want black people and indeed Africans and Nigerians to be suppressed forever said to the Nigerian leaders, if you allow the Biafrans to leave to form Eastern Nigeria in a different country, they've got the oil. Not only the oil, they have the actual trained manpower to run Nigeria. So we have a scenario. The children of Israel are leaving Egypt. Now you need to go and grab them, bring them back. If they refuse, you kill them. So that's really what Biafra was about. You are escaping from your enemy who wanted you to leave that part of the country, which you thought was yours. And then you got back to your own village. Now they want to kill you to bring you back in, to carry on killing you. So people need to understand that scenario. So, but to the Biafrans, there's no task was impossible. They just want to have their own country. So what do you think will happen to University of Nsukka? It was renamed University of Biafra straight away. We only had one university in that part of the world. So immediately they started planning to have another university at Port Harcourt. The schools, secondary school, everybody was being mobilized to run a country, which was so, it was going to be a pride of everybody. And we were so keen and eager to get on with running the country. In the meanwhile, our military, what is left of them, really done, if they were invaded, if we were invaded, we don't have a designated weapon to go and defend ourselves. But not very many people knew that. Because if you look at the Nigeria setup, I'm going to tell you for free that the way it was structured, there was a heavy concentration of military firepower in the north. Yeah? For example, the 3rd Battalion was in Kaduna. The 5th Battalion was in Kano. The 1st Artillery Brigade was in Kaduna. The 1st Field Squadron Engineers was in Kaduna. The 88th Transport Regiment was in Kaduna. Nigeria Military Academy was in Kaduna. Ordnance Depot, Nigeria, was in Kaduna. The 44 Military Hospital was in Kaduna. Nigeria Military Training College in Kaduna. Reconnaissance Squadron and Regimental Headquarters, Kaduna. Nigeria Air Force, Kaduna. 6th Battalion, which was being formed, was in Kaduna. Ammunition Factory, Kaduna. Recruitment Transport Depot, Zaria. Nigeria Military School, Zaria. And of that, the Western Nigeria, you have 4th Battalion, Ibadan. 2nd Field Artillery, that was in Abeokuta, and the 2nd Reconnaissance Squadron, Abeokuta. What about the East? Of the 20 formations, we had 1 battalion in Enugu. And that battalion that was in Enugu, because of what happened in May, the soldiers from those parts were asked to return to their own part of origin. So the northerners who were in Enugu at the time took their weapons and they left Enugu. And they said they're going to defend this for them. And when they get to the northern Nigeria, they'll return the weapons. They didn't return the weapon. So what I'm really illustrating there is that the East was defenseless. Okay? So you had all the heavy concentration in the north, and the people who set up Nigeria knew what they were doing, namely the British. They made sure where the firepower is will forever rule that country. So, but what are we to do? If we go to the north, they kill us. If we come back, they're coming to kill us. So you declare yourself a new nation. I think there's an Igbo saying that the chicken said he's not crying that the hawk will leave him alone. He's crying so that the whole world will hear his voice. Okay? So, Okukoshe, aye, akwa bega hawusa, ebe hafia, kama, mwanine nudia. So that was the situation Biafran found themselves in. We had to scream to other countries so that they will hear us. The AU, OAU, it was then, Organization of African Unity, the United Nations. If we didn't do Biafra as a country, a sovereign state, will remain inside Nigeria and a state of emergency will be declared and be wiped out. So, if we go back to Nigeria, we get killed. If we stay where we are, we get killed. So it's a very, very difficult situation. But the morale, as that music we played earlier was saying, the morale was so high because you now have a country. So that was the only umbrella we had. We now have a country. So that is the background. So what did we do then? We had to learn a new national anthem. My goodness, I was in the primary school, and one day the teacher came out and showed us the new national anthem. And I'm going to just sing the Tony Sofa for everybody to hear. This is what I learned as a primary school person. And it says, mi, re, mi, fa, mi, re, mi, do, re, mi, re, mi, fa, mi, re, mi, do, re, mi. So, 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 la, mi, so, so, re, fa, fa, mi, do, re, mi. So, 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 la, mi, so, so, re, fa, fa, mi, do, re, do. So we learned new song for our new national anthem, and we have to try and learn it. So it's quite interesting. So I'm just going to share that with you. So new national anthem, it's not every day you get born and then you have a new national anthem being played. In the UK, they have the God Save the King now being played. It used to be God Save the Queen. So there's sort of a change in that sort of atmosphere. So I'm just sharing with you little droplets of what was happening. So now, we have a nation to defend. Business was booming. People who fled from Lagos or whatever, they relocated. They started having the business all the towns in Biafra. Everything was going well. But you had 36 days. Remember, from the 30th of May to the 6th of July, 1967. 36 days is what you're given as a country before war. Okay? And at this time, the coast was already blockaded. Nigeria have already gone and blockaded the coast. There was no plane flying in. You could only drive through Cameroon before that area was sealed off. So you're already isolated, and the war hasn't even started. Okay, let's fast forward. What's now going to happen? Nigeria, on the other hand, Gowon was threatening until you declare their Biafra. So I want you to, undeclare Biafra. In other words, renounce secession, or we're going to march across, arrest you in Enugu, and capture all the rebellion, all the rebels, and bring them for trial and court-martial you. So what Gowon was saying is that this Declaration of Independence you people made is not acceptable, and it's a treasonable act, and we're going to use a police action to arrest the Juku and bring him for trial, and stop all this shenanigans. And maybe what they really meant to say is to carry on killing the Igbos. So the praise he coined was to unite Nigeria is an attack that must be done. The people call it a task that must be done. To keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. But the original statement was to unite, to keep Nigeria one is an attack that must be done. An attack that must be done. So, and that was in the radio jingles that we began to play. So while all this was happening, remember you had a new national anthem. We'll have to now have a new radio system, a new radio channel, a new radio station. And because BBC have got there before us, BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, we had to think about what to call ours. You call us a Biafran Broadcasting Corporation. That'd be copying, wouldn't it? Unlike the Biafran, very sharp people. So they say what we need to do is to call ourselves the BCB, the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. And from that Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, you now have the Radio Biafra, which you and I are listening to today. So that is the origin of the Radio Biafra. This Radio Biafra, before the war started, you started having people coming up to talk to us, Radio Biafra. We had someone called Ukukundem. Hey, my goodness. When I heard Nnamdi Kanu, I thought the spirit of Ukukundem has risen again. So Ukukundem, he was very fiery. He was a celebrated journalist. Student took on the Radio Biafra and started, explaining to the Northerners, this nonsense they're playing at, not fair for us. And they started completely hammering them, so much so that Ukukundem, when he comes on the radio and starts speaking, he can silence the whole Nigerian army. And so his speaking slowed them down, with Ojukwu saying, if they dare cross into Biafra land to attack us, even the grass will rise and fight. The grass will rise and fight. The grass will rise. So basically, they were preparing the minds of the people that if the war should come, well, we have no choice but to fight and defend ourselves. And nobody in Biafra thought if the war came, we were going to lose. Because in their mindset, what we had, if you're going to fight, well, what is it? Okonkwo, we take a knife, Abreba, we send the Abreba team to go and deal with it, guns and so on. Unknown to them, this is not a war you use man to man, spear arrows and machete. This is a modern warfare, okay? A modern warfare, you can shoot an artillery, which is about 15 miles, and during the war from Elede, you'll land around the environs of Owerri, from Elede. About, 15, 20 miles away. The artillery can land indiscriminately anywhere. So it's not a war you go in front and start, sword by sword. It's not a sword fight. So this is a modern war. And Nigeria had all the weapons, and we didn't. So that is already a disadvantage. So when the outsiders looked at the situation, they just sent a reporter like Freddie Forsyth. I wanted to go and cover the defeat of the Biafrans. The war hasn't even started. The BBC was planning to go there and report the surrender. Okay. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just the mindset of the outside world. They say Biafrans, this thing will be over in 72 hours. What are they? I read you all the formations where the military was kept in Nigeria. Everything was outside Biafra land. So how can you then fight a war? What, are you guys mad? What is the matter with you? So the scenario then was that the Biafrans have to get down to real. Those in the know need to start thinking about how to protect this new land. Okay, so they formed an Institute of Technology straight away, and that Institute of Technology was beginning to help to plan how to defend this land and manufacture things for us. They had, yes, you heard me right. They had the Food Directorate. The Directorate was already in place. They had the Food Directorate. They had the Clothing Directorate. These are the people they were organizing to make sure we had some semblance, in case the war breaks out, what we're going to do to defend it. So I'm just going quickly now, just to make sure we're not bogged down. So by God's grace, we'll be able to have few time for people to ask some questions. So the preparation, I'm saying to you, was not what we would have liked it to be, because you're already blockaded. You're not bringing a shipload of weapons to help to defend yourself. Whatever you have inside Biafra is what you had, and were few weapons that began to arrive. And dialing back to Aburi Accord, the opening sentence of Aburi, Ojukwu said, look, we hear that the people are buying weapons. And his name was Apollo. Yeah, one of the Nigerian soldiers was sent out to go and buy weapons to Nigeria. And Ojukwu was the former quartermaster general. Quartermaster is a person who knows what armor comes into your country as a military man. So, but Ojukwu has moved away from that to be governor of the eastern region. So he knew roughly what the weapons were. So Gowon, in the Aburi Accord, in the Aburi discussion, they agreed that people were sending, soldiers to go and buy weapons from Nigeria. So it was decided that whatever weapons was bought, it would be shared among all the 4 regions to remove suspicion, and people should stop importing weapons. But the weapons that was imported was not shared. So to cut this long story not too short, the eastern region was really without any means of defending itself. So, but 36 days is what they had. So I will now go and explain to you what happened as we waited for the assault to come, because Nigeria wasn't going to allow you to go. We'll say good riddance. Maybe if there was no oil in Biafra land, yeah, they would say, oh, well, they have left Nigeria. Good riddance. There's no point us to. It's a good thing they left. Now we can all have peace and quiet, isn't it? But it wasn't like that. They wanted your oil. They wanted your land, but not your people. It became very obvious. And that is really why the fighting was so bitter. Because even though they came with all this heavy firepower, we sang songs like Hasinelu Sinala, Sina Mary, Biafra again, when Mary. There's something they forgot to calculate. That is the determination of Biafrans to survive. And that is, in any war, you declare any war. It doesn't matter how mighty you think you are. Yeah, might is not right. Might is not always right. Okay? Hitler tried it, but Operation Barbarossa, when Hitler tried to cross into Russia. I've forgotten how many miles long the front was, with millions of people he sent in to go and capture the whole of Russia. Well, he failed. Napoleon tried it before. He's going to drink tea in he's going to drink tea in Moscow. He did. He managed to drink tea in Moscow, but then there was nobody there to fight. He retreated, and the funny thing was that the buttons the French used for their coats under such a cold weather, the zinc that was made of fell off, so they died of pneumonia because they didn't have enough cover to keep them warm. So every time you set out to destroy people, every time you go to conquer people, whatever it is, whoever you think you are, if it's unfair as a fight, and you think, you can win because you have the firepower, just think that the people might want to live. Yeah, they wouldn't all surrender. They might want to live. They might want to, protect whatever God has given them. And in Biafra, we had so many miracles that occurred to keep us alive. So at the end of the fighting, it appears that the enemy realized, and indeed was witnessed by outsiders, that before they came, they said, Biafrans were told, fight like heroes. And then when the French foreign minister came, he said he now knows that heroes, in fact, fight like Biafrans. So I'm taking you to the battle to see exactly what happened. The battle started, this so-called police action. Yeah, police action, which Gawan called it, is just going to cross what he then called the East Central State, go into Enugu, capture Ojukwu, bring all his rebels, and try them and court-martial them and end this nonsense called rebellion. Yeah. So what was happening then is that the Biafrans, those in the know, was expecting an invasion, because there was a lot of massing. Nigerian military troops were massing, meaning they're concentrating a certain part in the northern part of northern part of Biafra land around Makurdi, right? So Nigerian troops were massing. All their equipment was supplied, but being, getting ready for an attack under Colonel Shua, who was going to launch the attack into Biafra land. When you launch an attack, you have a sort of a plan, a decoy. Yeah, just like in the Second World War, when the Allies attacked Germany or Nazi German Europe, they didn't just come across Calais. Calais from Dover to Calais is the shortest distance in England to France. So Hitler was waiting with all his firepower across Calais with some serious guns that can blow ships out of the water. But the Western Allies went all the way around to a place called Normandy. Okay, and the problem with that the the Germans thought that was a decoy. But you're playing with intelligent people. Germans are very intelligent. Say, this is a decoy. We still wait for Calais. But then the decoy was not so much of a decoy, was the real thing. So that's what caught the Germans out. So by the time they realized it's a real invasion, then it was a little bit, the Allies had few more opportunity to get their toe in Europe, and then started taking land from France and so on, from German occupation. So in the Nigerian scenario, they attacked in two fronts. One at a place called Garkem. Garkem is the northeastern part of Biafra land and near Ogoja. So Garkem was one of the first places they attacked, and then at a place called Ugudu. And then you come to the Nsukka. Now, Nsukka is immediately ahead, between north of Enugu, and Enugu is the capital. So if you're coming to attack, to capture Enugu, you will not come straight to Nsukka. You go via Ogoja area as a decoy. Okay, so there's a two-front attack, two-pronged attack it's called. So this two-pronged attack started off at a place called Garkem. Garkem is about 30 miles from Ogoja Township. Garkem. Now, so what did they do? Before they came to Garkem, the Biafran soldiers, and this information is coming from somebody called Alexander Madiebo, who is the GOC, the Biafran, who became the general officer commanding the Biafran army. He wrote an article. He wrote about the actual war event. So if you want to study it, that is where most of the information about the war is, about the actual battlefield and what happened. So our Alexander Madiebo, he was in the Biafran military commander. He was trained along with Gowon at Sandhurst. He was there when Yakubu Gowon was called Jack Gowon by the Sergeant Major at Sandhurst. Sergeant Major came down, everybody was telling their name, and Yakubu Gowon said, "What is your name?" He was asked, "What is his name?" He said, "My name is Yakubu Gowon." So that name sounds like Jack. "Can I call you sir? Can I call you Jack?" Yeah. So that's how he called his name Jack. So this Madiebo was in the same class as Gowon, and he would train in the artillery, the Nigerian artillery brigade, if you like. He knows about the artilleries. So he happens to be around the northern part of Biafra, which is where the battle started, this Garkem place, when this took place. Have another side to it. You can always hear the Nigerian side or how they attacked us, but this is the Biafran side of the story. So you have it. If Nigeria has ever published what they did, so you need to hear it. So in other words, the Ogoja area was when the whole thing started. So the General Madiebo actually died this year on the 3rd of June. I know most of you might know this. He was 90 years old. He was one of the remaining Biafran commanders. So he died on the 3rd of June, 2022. So he's 90 years old. So I'm reading, therefore, from his book. I haven't studied it. So this is where the first battle, opening shots, okay, in the Biafran-Nigerian War, this is where it was documented. So it's the battle at Garkem. The night before that Garkem operation, went visiting as a superior officer, checking how ready are we in defending the land. So he went to the northern part of Biafra land to check those who are in the front, close to Nigeria. Okay, so when he got there, he realized that the commanding officer who was supposed to be looking after a battalion, a brigade of Biafrans, was actually in hospital. He was ill. So the second lieutenant. So the captain was in hospital, but the second lieutenant was the one. He didn't know what he was doing. He wasn't even trained properly. So he told them off. He said, "What are you guys playing at? Now, come on, let's dig some trenches." It's a dug trenches at an area where they thought would be good for defending. So a trench is when you dig a hole in the ground, and not that you're going to bury the person, but you're actually going to go in there, so that if there's a shell or a rifle, you can actually, a bullet, you may be able to have somewhere to hide. Okay, so it's very, very important. You dig a trench. And during the war, we dug trenches. And I say we, that is how we survived in the Wari environment, because the Wari was cut off and Nigerians were trying to recapture it. And they were shelling. Shelling means they're sending artillery, and it can land on your head, it can land on your house, it can land anywhere. So what we did was to dig holes in the ground and put palm tree trunks over those holes and filled it with sand. So now if the artillery land directly on it, of course you died anyway. But if you land outside it, you would live. So it's a trench. A trench in warfare is very, very important. You dig in and you protect yourself from all the shrapnels that will be flying around if you're standing or not if you're in an open place. So, having explained that, so this commanding officer told the soldiers off and said, "You better dig the trench. What do you think you're playing at?" So he showed them. They dug the trench and they got ready. So the very next day after digging this trench, at 5:30, 5:30 in the morning, in Garkem. So for those who want to know the history, on the 6th of July, 1967, at 5:30 in the morning, 5:30 hours, at Garkem, they opened up. Nigerians opened up with a barrage of artillery. A heavy, what they call preparatory bombardment. You're preparing the ground. You're softening the ground by throwing lots and lots of heavy artillery over the area you're about to march across. So the heavy mortars, extremely heavy ones, sustained for over from 5:30 to about 9 o'clock, non-stop. So people who heard it thought, "Oh, there's some thunder, in the distance." Thunder. So this commander of the army knew, because he trained in artillery. He knew it was Nigerian artillery, and the war has therefore started. So that is how it came about. So those who were there initially, they were hiding inside the trench they dug, where this artillery was raining down on them. As they threw all this artillery, then the Nigerians sent in the APCs, armored personnel carriers, and we call Saladins and Saracens. The Saladin, there were 3 Ferret cars and 1 Saladin. These are the vehicles. They're very, very, it's a bit like a tank. You can, if you shoot at them, the bullet will not touch the people inside it, but they can hose you down with bullets. So it's like a protective gear. So those ones, after the shelling, they send those 4 APCs across, to cover the ground. So those ones then went ahead. So our boys or Biafran troops were inside the trenches. So they allowed these things to pass. They didn't challenge them, because you can't challenge them with your rifles. After that, then the Nigerians send in their own troops, the battalions of Nigerian troops, were then following the tank. So they shelled you, then they bring the armor personnel, which they're then following behind. So the armored personnel passed by, and then these Nigerian troops have followed them, and then the people who dug the trench went on the either side, so that when they passed by, they're now behind them. Okay, does that make sense? So that's how the encounter started. Of course, when the shelling started, the Biafran started sustaining injury. They're being carried away. But then, when the actual shooting was when the Nigerian infantry came across. So for those who know little about military tactics, is like you have prepared the ground. You then send in the armored personnel, right? There were 3 Ferret cars once again and 1 Saladin armored vehicles. These came in at 9 o'clock. And then the Land Rover was mounted with 106 recoilless rifle anti-tank gun, which moved in to attack armored vehicles, and they're raining bullets. So if they're spraying on the village and all the mud huts, it just knocks this down. There's no defense whatsoever. Okay, so they approached our troops. So what happened? Our troops went on both sides of the flank to make contact with the enemy and then attack them. So this is what happened. The armored personnel carriers bypassed, the Biafran troops bypassed them, and they carried on going to the village to terrorize and kill as many people as they could. But the Biafran troops made contact with the assaulting enemy infantry. Yeah? So they're advancing half-heartedly. They're about 400 yards from the village. Now, therefore fighting began, and each enemy battalion poised against 2 battalions. The Biafrans had 2 platoons. The platoon is about 50 or 60 number of troops. A battalion is over 100. Yeah. So imagine 2 of them, and then you're faced with 2 platoons of Biafran army. So it's already a mismatch. Now, after 2 hours of intense exchange of fire, the enemy turned round and broke into a run back towards where they started, their start line. So they were obvious surprise for the reason they suffered heavy casualty, and they considered a number of prisoners of war. Biafrans captured some of the Nigerian troops, and one of them turned out to be what the author says a bore. He was just boring them with his whining and complaining. Several hours, muttering to himself. This is what he said. In other words, the Biafrans have arms and ammunition. In other words, the Biafrans had arms and ammunition. In other words, the Biafrans had arms and ammunition. Nobody could stop him, because what surprised him was that he was told that the Biafra just march across and capture them and come home. The war will be over in 72 hours. So when he was surprised that Biafra were able to shoot back at them, so he said, in other words, he didn't call you the Easterners, he didn't call you the Igbo, he said the Biafrans. So if you don't think you are a Biafran, an enemy coming to kill you is calling you a Biafran. Okay? So take that as a note. So they're calling you Biafrans, even in the first opening shot of the war. Yeah? So remember, Biafra was declared 36 days earlier. They are calling you Biafrans, even in the heat of the battle. So in other words, the Biafrans have arms and ammunition. I wish we had enough. Anyway, that's another story. So that is the first encounter, which I think most of us are not familiar with. They will tell you that Biafrans declared, Ojukwu declared Biafra and attacked Nigeria, so that's why Nigeria started the war. Here is it in black and white. The person they captured was not carrying any handcuff. Okay, the armored personnel were not police marked. These are soldiers. Okay, Nigeria had plenty of them. Some of them were trained in the Second World War. We just came up and we had to form a new military. We are from scratch, because those battalions that were staying in Enugu have already left. What was left was technicians and cooks. They didn't have any weapons, so we had to start from scratch. And to make the matter worse, the Biafrans who were in the Nigerian army on the 29th of July, most of the officers, over 200 of them, were massacred. So the people who could fight for you were wiped out. You have no weapons and you have to defend yourself. So those are the situations we found ourselves on the 6th of July, 1967, when the war started. So now that the Biafran have surprised the Nigerians, okay, the opening shots, the Biafran troops were now anxious to exploit their success. Imagine the excitement, yeah? They charged down and advanced and soon run into a heavy enemy fire. So when they charged, then, because if you manage to stop the enemy, yeah, you then chase them only to run into another flank of enemy waiting for you in front of them, yeah? And then from the armored personnel, the vehicles which went which passed them earlier on is now speeding back, has turned round because these troops are no longer joining them. So the troops turn round, the armored vehicles turned around to chase the Biafrans, and then the other ones who were waiting for them finally. So you can imagine the confusion. So their troops again moved out of the flanks to allow the armored personnel carrier to pass by. Okay, from there the troops returned to their trenches at Garkem. So they came back to where they started, the face of fierce concentration of artillery. So having got there, then the enemy can only shoot at them from a distance with artillery firepower. So because they have dug a trench, and that trench protected them during the night, and then to allow them to withstand the bombardment. Okay, so I just want to pause there for a second, because that is to remind you that the opening encounter was at Garkem. Garkem is about 30 miles from Ugoja town, and it was in the northern east uttermost northeastern part of Biafra land. But remember, I said to you, they also came to another part, which is in Suka. Okay, so what's happened is that I'll tell you briefly about Obudu. Yeah, so at Obudu, yeah, while the Battle of Garkem was raging, this fighting here, that front, that side, they're also fighting at Obudu. Now, the similar battle pace was also happening. So this time is the Biafran D Company, the 1st Battalion. Yeah, this was stationed at Obudu. They're extremely strong. This time, the Nigerian troops are meeting some people who are actually in the Nigeria, who were formerly in the Nigerian, as well led by a Captain Michael Olehi. Olehi was the captain in the Nigerian army before the war started, and he has half of his company, of 450 men. They were old Nigerian soldiers, with the commander himself in a position to boast 18 years of military service. So this time, they're going to meet not just new recruits, but really toughened soldiers. So at the end of the 2 hours of bombardment, again, Nigeria opened up bombardment, lasted from 6 to 8. The enemy then put in a straightforward infantry attack. That was quickly halted and beaten back, because Biafran troops are well disciplined and well trained. Then we followed them into an immediate counterattack. They launched into an attack to chase the Nigerians, but which was so successful that the enemy was completely routed and sent on the run. The enemy casualties were very heavy, and the amount of stores captured, equipment and weapons they captured was considerable. During the almost uncontrollable chase, which followed, many enemy stragglers were taken prisoners. By midday, we had captured enough weapons to form another armed platoon, and only limitations being the actual restricted quantities of ammunition captured with these weapons. So you captured them, but you need to put bullets inside them. So I just explained in the two battles, one of them, Biafrans were waiting for them, were really strong, well-trained and well-disciplined. So they were able to hold their own in that sense at Obudu. Okay? So because I want this discussion to be interactive, I just showed you the opening shots of what happened in Biafra. There'll be many more battles because the war was about 30 months. There are so many areas we're going to discuss so that our people will have some idea of what actually went down. It's not a police action. Nobody they captured there was a policeman with the handcuffs to come and arrest Ojukwu and take him back to Lagos. It didn't happen like that. They invaded Biafra. Nigeria crossed the border and attacked Biafra with shelling, with armored personnel carriers, all sorts of heavy artillery, weaponry, and the soldiers marched in to kill. And they were repulsed in the first run. Now, so that's what was happening. What about the general public? Biafrans, obviously, you don't know what's going on because you're nowhere. For example, in Port Harcourt, you were miles away from the battle scene. And in those days, you don't have telex, you don't have, you can't just send someone a text and say the war has started and so on. So how did the general public, what gave them the inclination that there's something amiss, right? Well, here's where Radio Biafra comes in again. So this Radio Biafra is very impressive. So Radio Biafra was there on the day the war started, okay? So what happened on the 6th of July, 1967? It was in the afternoon. By the way, 6th of July was on a Thursday. Okay, so in the afternoon, the Radio Biafra started sounding battle drum beats. Okay, these battle drum beats was like Abreba and Uzoitem clan war drum beats. So the radio suddenly started playing drum beats. Okay, these drum beats went on for a long time. Okay, so the interesting thing is that imagine you've been playing normal radio and suddenly this drum beat started. Okay, so those who had the radio to listen to was wondering, what is going on? Something must be happening. So at long last, it's like when the Queen died or any major person died, there's a change in scenery in broadcast. That's exactly happened in Radio Biafra. So after long, drum beats, there's then somebody came on the radio with a depressed voice announcing thus, this quote unquote, His Excellency is going to address the nation shortly. So stay tuned. Okay? So, and then the drum beat went on again. Oh, no. And then everybody was obviously waiting, pausing. Well, what's going to happen? What has happened? So before the evening news, the drum beat then stopped. Then came the sympathetic but energized voice of His Excellency, Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odimejiukwu, who came on radio on the 6th of July 1967, and he said, paraphrased, fellow Biafrans, at the early hours of this morning, some brigades of Nigerian army attacked our Biafran soldiers in 3 sectors at the northern border. But our gallant soldiers repelled them. And then, unquote, he ended the speech by stressing the need for everybody to be eternally vigilant, for eternal vigilance. And I remind you that Ojukwu's number plate was, if anyone knows his number plate, he put VIG1, VIG1, Vigilant 1. So that's his number plate. So that's an interesting one to drop in. Okay, so what I've done here is to tell you on the day there's Radio Biafra went into war as well. Okay, there was a change in the Radio Biafra announcements, and to set the scene for Ojukwu to make the announcement that the war has started. Nigeria crossed over and attacked us. Okay, so I think this is just a taste of what happened between the 36 days, 30th of May, to the 6/7/67 when the war started. And I think I ought to pause here and take some questions or interact and talk, because I want people to, ask questions and learn. If I can't answer a question, I may go and find out the answer and come back to you another time. But MAZI IKECHUKWU, I hope this is okay.
All right, MAZI, I tell you what we are going to do. I'm going to open the line, but meanwhile, because obviously it takes a bit of a while before the call starts coming in on the WhatsApp line. So what you're gonna do is you will continue, and as soon as a call comes in, I will alert you, and then of course we give chance for the call. We take the question, and then So if you may continue while I open the lines, and then we wait for the calls to come through.
Okay, thanks. That's good. All right. So now.
And please, one more thing. Sorry. One more thing. Let me announce the numbers to call. So if you are listening right now, it is Constructive Argument on Radio Biafra with MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA. And of course, we're talking Biafran history. And I am opening the line in case if you want to call, you have a question, historical, that you want to ask our guest this evening. Please call on our WhatsApp line. And the numbers are +27 740 678 412. I repeat, +27 740 678 412, and for the last time, +27 740 678-412. That is our WhatsApp line, and that is the number you can call. We will take your question. You don't have to give a long speech. Just ask a question, and then we will take it from there. So we are waiting for your question. Please don't call on the Skype line because our Skype line is engaged. Our guest is currently on the Skype line. Just call on this WhatsApp line. Many of you knows this line. All right, Mazi, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll double back and say before the war started, you can't work in isolation. Okay, in other words, the world where Biafra Nigeria is a war, but you have to remember they both are in the planet Earth. Yeah, so you have to look at what is happening outside Nigeria in the world. So the geopolitics of the world at the time was that of Cold War. Now, what does that mean? It means the West was arraigned against the communist Russia, okay? So they are varying to see who would dominate the planet. Both had their weapons. So this war, Biafra Nigeria, was in the Cold War environment, okay? The second thing was the Vietnam War was on, okay? So the media might be more interested in Vietnam than Nigeria-Biafra war, okay? Then prior to that, 6-day war. The 6-day war is on the 5th of June to 10th of June, where Israel was fighting the Arab nations. They massed the Arab nation united to fight Israel. Okay? So as a result of that 6-day war, which Israel gained more territories, there was then a blockade of the Suez Canal. So there was what we call the energy crisis started, which we have at the moment. So the oil that was coming from the Middle East wasn't going through the Suez Canal. So immediately, the UK, for example, needs oil. They need the oil to run the industry, but it's not coming through Suez Canal. They've already gone to war before to open the Suez Canal, but this time it was blocked after the 6-day war. The Arab nation wanted to boycott anyone sending oil to the West because they perceived that the West was supporting Israel and so on. So,
all right, Mazi, if you can hold on for this. I think I have a caller. Let's go to the caller and see what question the caller have. Caller on WhatsApp, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA.
There were Mazi. Good evening. Please, your names and where you calling, and then, of course, you give us your question, and then you listen on the background. Thank you.
Yes, there were my dear brother, MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA, and our Honorable Dr. Okachi. I want to thank you. In fact, I've been following this program right from the first one until date. The thing is that from the first history, from the first, what would I call it now? Is it history of what happened to our people till today? It has been. I've not. My perspective, my perception of the way I view Nigeria before has changed. You know, if my hatred was, should I say, 100% before, it has doubled. You know, because of the series of massacres, because of everything. And I want to thank Dr. Okachi for bringing this to the notice. But I want to make a request that if it's possible, there was, I don't know if it is the part 2 or part 3, where he talked about the witnesses, the people that were witnessing for the massacre in Castina, Sokoto. If it can be made like a form of hard copy, you know, a short hard copy, and I'm sure Biafrans are willing to have it in any way, in any form, because sometimes, you know, in audio,
all right, Mazi,
it can be lost.
Mazi, please, just to summarize, because of time and there's a lot of caller waiting, do you want to ask a question or just the request?
Yes, the request, and then also it's not a question. One thing I want Dr. Kaji to tell us, please.
Yes.
Why do we have a lot of our people? There was a day you asked him this question, but the answer was not very clear to me. I want to know, after all the massacre, even before the war and the one after the war, as why do we still have a lot of our people in the north today? I want to know. I want to know. You've asked him this question.
All right,
but
Mazi. He's
answer
going
is
to
not
answer
very
it
clear
now.
to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ndewo. All right, Doctor, I don't know if you get the question.
No, I did not hear fully.
All right, let me say he first of all he made a request in one of your history lesson part 2 where you spoke about the eyewitnesses, you know, during the war. So he said if you can make it available in hard copy, it will be appreciated. That was a request he made. And then he asked a question. He said that upon all the massacring of our people before and during and after the war, why do we still have Biafrans still living in the north? That was his question. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I don't know what your name is. Thank you for asking. The actual evidence I've already mentioned in those earlier talks. Those people who are massacred in the north, they had to give evidence before a judge, okay, in a tribunal. That tribunal is called the Report of Justice GCM Onyuke Tribunal. Is summarized by saying this massacre of Ndibo in 1966. There's a book. It's not an article. It's just a book which gives a summary of what the massacre was about. Okay, so get hold of Justice Onyuke Onyuke Tribunal. Is the Eastern Nigerian at that time government documentation of what happened to the Ndibo in the north. Okay, now they have been killed during the war, before the war rather, which that one was about. Now, although they're entering Ugoja now, you're going to see what they did to people they caught. They kill more people. So to answer your question, why are they still in the north? I think, MAZI IKECHUKWU, you asked me this question last time.
Yes, I did.
Yes, and I've answered it. I said, if you had proper infrastructure in the south, in the eastern region, in the Biafran land, if they had trains, if they had airport, if they have access to the sea where you're importing things, they would not be outside Biafran land. They don't need to. Yeah, they would develop that Biafran land. Now, but the problem now is not just them being in the north, is even if they came back to the part we call Biafra land, they're being killed. There are people waiting for them in the farms, in the forest. There are people waiting for them in their town. They have to pay toll fee every corner they pass. So Nigeria is a mess for them. So wherever you are, you're not safe. So that's where we need Biafra. So what I will advise them, wherever you are, so start thinking about having a country where when Biafra comes, all you have in the north, which is your properties and so on, and therefore you're a bit reluctant and hesitant in joining the Biafra movement. Those properties would and should be guaranteed because you'll be a foreigner in your own country and they can then take your property. But at the moment, you claim to be a Nigerian, they can kill you anytime and take your property. So that's the dilemma we find ourselves. I wish I have all the answers. Thank you very much.
All right, Doctor, I still have another caller on WhatsApp. Let's go and find out what question he has. Caller on WhatsApp, MAZI Simon, can you hear me? Please turn down your radio. Turn down your radio, MAZI.
I'm out.
All right.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Simon. I am calling from Maria, Spain. Ikechukwu OnUOHA bless every IPOB family member all over the world. Bless our able leader, Onyendu. Anywhere he is, Chukwu OnUOHA will be with him. Protect all IPOB family members all over the world. You see?
You see?
They won't know. UKACHI-LOISE. Ndewo. Otele nchọwara gị mụ amaghịzi nke na-eme eme. Dedi na n'ihe na-ekwu Simon Dika. Go.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead and ask your question and I will relate to him. Maybe he's not hearing you very well. Go ahead.
I'm not hearing
you properly. So quickly talk to MAZI IKECHUKWU and then
yes,
relate
yes, go ahead. Ask your question and I will relate to him.
This go to you. They do catch it. EJ about Chinua. I want to know about Chinua project. Dede.
All right. So the question is, you want to know about Chinua project. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, Mazi. Okay, then I will put the question across to him.
So is he not hearing?
No, it's fine. It's all about question. I will ask him, and then you need to drop the phone, and then you will listen on the background. He will answer the question.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. On this occasion, I think I heard Chinua project. Is that right?
Yes, that's what he's asking. Chinua project. Yes, please go ahead.
Excellent. Who's asking?
Mazi Simon Anyanugo from Spain, Ameria, Spain.
Yeah, my brother, Simon. Nice to hear from you, sir. Okay. Chinua project is something, by God's grace, I will explain more on the platform like this. Chinua project is about the economic genocide meted on Biafrans, because after the war, they made sure those people who had money in the bank didn't access it. They shut us down. So if you had £1,000 in the bank, you're only allowed £20. If you had £5 in the bank, you're not allowed to have £20. Yeah? And there's a change in currency which caught Biafrans out. It's something with the permission of Ike or any other radio platform to explain properly to people. I've already presented it in Radio Biafra before. And lots of people waiting to understand more about it, is whereby we reverse the economic genocide which Nigeria meted on us, whereby those who survived the war and they went back to their bank and say, bank manager, oh, well done, you survived the war. So, yes. Can I have my money now, please? Oh, what money are we talking about? Oh, do you know the amount I had in my bank account before I ran away from Zaria? Yes. How much is it? Oh, 20,000. Okay. £20,000. Yeah, okay. Can I have maybe 2,000 to start my business again? No, the government said you only allow £20 ex gratia, out of the kindness of their heart. They only give you £20. So you go home and you died of heart failure because you survived the war. You probably lost members of relatives. You want to start a business. The money you have, you cannot access it. So what I did was to look into the possibility of utilizing that knowledge to rebuild Biafrans in their economic endeavor. So with the opportunity, I'll talk about it more. Okay, because it's an important project. Simon, thank you very much. Briefly, is when the Biafrans wake up and realize that economically, if we all get together, and I've outlined it already in the radio, it is possible as a nation for Biafrans throughout the world to raise 1 billion in one day. And I'll explain how that is possible in our radio broadcast. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for that, my brother Simon. I'm sure you've heard the answer to that. The Chinua project, he will emphasize more on next time. All right. Let's go back to the line. Caller on WhatsApp. I don't know if you can hear me. Caller on WhatsApp.
Yeah, Mazi, good evening, sir.
Good evening from here, Mazi. Please, your name and where you're calling from. Then you ask your question.
Yeah, I'm calling from Hong Kong. My name is UKACHI-LOISE.
My
question is, he said they were collecting weapons from Nigerian government, but they don't have bullets. So how did I get bullets?
All right, brilliant.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask him that. Okay, you can stay back on the background, and then of course I will relay your question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right, Doctor. I don't know if you heard that. He said that. You spoke about.
I didn't hear this.
All right, let me relay it to you. He said that you told us that the Biafran armies were collecting weapons from the Nigerian soldiers, but they don't have bullets. So how did they end up getting the bullets? That was his question.
Okay, when you in the heat of the battle, the enemy drops a weapon, like let's say a rifle. You pick that up. You don't have necessarily the bullet to go inside it, because you didn't collect the bullets as well. The bullet is stored somewhere else. So that's the point I'm making.
Right.
You captured as much of the equipment of the enemy, but sometimes you don't have the arms. There's something called arms and ammunition. Yeah, the rifle and the bullet. They're different things. You can carry the weapon, but if there's something going inside it, it's not going to work, is it? So when you capture the stores of the enemy, you may not necessarily have the same caliber to match it when you get to your home. Because the world didn't want us to exist, because they felt if we have the oil and some trained personnel in Biafra land, you can develop rapidly as a nation, and that will change the geopolitical situation on the planet. Because for the first time, you have an African nation that can stand on its own, and you can have that in the 60s, especially in the Cold War scenario. Okay, so those are the areas you have to look at, because nothing happened in isolation. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about
I got there. Before you continue, let me put this call through, and then we get this question, and then I will let you continue. Caller on WhatsApp, can you hear me, please?
Oh, hey, Biafra.
Oh, hey, Biafra. Good evening, Mazi. Your names, please, where you calling from, and your question.
My name is Mohamed. I'm calling from France, and I'm a native of Abreba.
All right.
I had a doctor talking about the Abreba people and also the Udbende boys. That if you check the second and the third interview, and they say after the war of Biafra, after the ending of the war of Biafra, then the Abreba boys and the Udbende, they wanted to go back to the north and continue the struggle, but to stop them. I want to know, those Abreba boys, are they soldiers, the Biafran soldiers, or are they just common men that are eager to continue the struggle of Biafra? That's the first question. The second
All right,
question,
hold on, Mazi. Before you go to the second, let me make sure I get your question. You say that after the war, there are some Abreba and Bende boys who want to go to the north to continue the struggle. Is that what you said?
They wanted to go back to the north to continue the struggle.
Okay. Yes. So you wanted to know if those boys are soldiers or just ordinary people?
Are they Biafran soldiers or?
All right. All right. What is your second question? What is your second question, Mazi? Your line is a bit wobbling, but I'm managing to get.
The second question is, second question, I heard our leader used to say that the original copy of the Biafran buckets and other missiles was destroyed. But is it did the Biafran still have the original copy or the blue copy still remaining today or not?
All right, I get your question. Thank you very much. I will put your question to the doctor. Ndeo Mazi. All right. The line was a bit noisy, but I think I managed to get the question. He asked that he said that I don't know if he said you spoke about some Abreba and Bende boys after the Biafran War. They wanted to go back to the north to start the struggle. Now the question is asking: are those boys Biafran soldiers or individuals? I don't know if you get that, Doctor.
Okay. I did not hear about any Abreba boys going up to the north after the war. There was Abreba contingent that went to Enugu to try and defend Enugu, during the war. Now, the issue was the Abreba, there's this tradition where to be an Abreba warrior, you have to go and bring somebody's head or something like that. So they are given bags to go and collect heads. Just like David was asked to go and collect some foreskins of his enemies. So the issue here it's not that type of war. It's not where you take a knife and go and chop somebody's head off when the person's got a rifle or got an artillery before you. So the Abreba contingent that went to the north, which is north of Biafra, which is around the Enugu area, when Enugu was about to fall. They just had one shelling, and they decided to take the train and go to Umuahia and to complain to Ojukwu. But that's a different story. That's another story altogether.
All right.
But I don't think they went to the northern part of Nigeria to start any guerrilla warfare. The world expected Biafrans to fight in the guerrilla warfare, but I don't think he used knife. It's not the type of war you need. So I don't recall reading anywhere about the Abreba boys going up to the north. I could be mistaken.
All right. All right, brilliant. Now, the second question was, he's asking about the copies, the plan of the Ojukwu bucket and some of the ammunitions which was produced by Biafran scientists, during the war. He's asking, where are the original copies? Were they destroyed or are they still around?
Yeah. Yes, very good question. The issue with Biafran scientists during the war, they did extremely well. We hear about it. Ojukwu was in a meeting, and someone sent him a note and said, "We discovered a rocket." He couldn't believe it. He came out of the meeting, and they launched it in the lawn where he was. It just took off. He was flabbergasted. And these people tried to build planes. He said, "We didn't succeed, but we tried." The actual spirit in Biafra was beyond belief. They were able to do anything. They just put their mind in it, okay? So now, after the war, they were disbanded, okay? They were scattered around. So it was such that you couldn't get anybody. Nigeria could have tapped on their knowledge to develop what is called the ammunition industry. But Nigeria feared that if we allowed them, they'd be like Germany. They'd be like Japan. They would develop, even though they were defeated, they will have, they have some knowledge that will help Biafra to restore. So anything to do with ingenuity that was created in Biafra was not allowed to thrive. They will come, and in fact, there's a computer that was sent to the East Central State then after the war. And they came and covered it, so nobody would develop from it. They had a jet turbo engine from a person who was coming to show them how to develop a plane from East Russia, for Russian, who used to be Stalin's engineer, to come to UNN, University of Nigeria, but they shut that program down, so it doesn't teach them how to do turbo engines. So there are so many efforts. In fact, the person who manufactured the car, the first car in Nigeria, the engine, all the thing he used, the block, was taken to Lagos, is it Abuja, for further investigation, and never allowed to see the light of day. So everything technological that was decided to come from the East was confiscated or blocked by the federal government to make sure it did not rise economically, technologically. So it's their loss.
Because
anyway,
because when I was growing up, there was an uncle of mine. He's my uncle. His name is Simon Nwachukwu. He was a professor and a scientist at the University of Enugu at those days. Nsukka? I don't know what you call it. He was at the University of Nsukka. So he was among the people who actually discovered the Ojukwu buckets. So I still believe that the copies of those innovations should be lying around somewhere. It's just that we never took it serious. People were still trying to survive after the war, and nobody give a damn about those important documents.
Yes. Well, I'm sure the Ojukwu bucket, what they call the Wunigwe, run on what they call the Monroe principle in physics. But that's a different thing. They developed a weapon that has so many Richter scales, an incredible development, but it wasn't allowed to be further manufactured by the Nigerian short-sighted leaders. So that was that anyway. So you're right, it may be lying somewhere, but the generation that developed it are obviously leaving us. As I just told you, the commander is now 90 and he died this year.
All right,
so
Doctor, the calls are still coming in. You tell me when to stop, because Biafrans are not going to stop until you stop. All right, let's take this one. Caller on WhatsApp, can you hear me? Good evening from here.
Good evening. Sorry, I was calling on a direct line, so I actually want to find out, does the direct line not working on this particular line?
Direct line, I don't know. It's not working because you know, it's a WhatsApp line strictly. But you can talk to me. You can talk to me if possible.
It's okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Okay, I have two questions, but let me start from this. Number one question is that Uncle Onyemuchechukwu, Uncle, he said something that touched me. He said that this war started from Gakim, a place called Gakim, close to, is it Ogoja or something? And I actually want to find out something because people are saying that Ojukwu, our uncle Ojukwu, did not consult the elders of the land before engaging on that war. You know, so now my question is this: is he confirming it now from telling us that this war that started from Gakim have something to do with the consultants or maybe the agreement, concise agreement of the elders of the whole areas of both rivers, they call rivers recently, and every other person? Because I actually heard from Oyendi saying that it was Opibo who reminded us, our uncle Ojukwu, that we should go back to who we are. So now I'm asking him, is he confirming it now that these people, Gakim, is a part of Biafra, and also that everybody is in the awareness of this? Because in the recent time,
Mazi, hold on before we get lost. Your question is, did Ojukwu consult before embarking on the war? Was that your question?
Yeah, because there is an argument in Biafra land that he did not consult the elders, like Ohaneze and the P2B is denying that when Mazi Nnamdi did not tell them what he's doing.
Right.
So I want him to let me off on that. Then another one is this.
Okay.
That sir, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. I'm listening to you, Mazi.
Okay. The second question is this. Considering the first person that called in, or sorry, the second person that called in, you know, talking about how there is a question he asked, which related into, you know, giving us 20 pounds and all that.
All right.
So I just want to find out this, the Abam people, as in the Abriba people and the Item people, are they the real people who started this fight from that section of Gakim, or they were the people in charge of publicity to let the people know from their drum war beat? Yeah.
All right.
Don't know if I made myself
all right. Thank you very much. I will relay your question. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Doctor, I'm trying to understand.
I didn't hear any of those questions.
Yes, I'm going to relate that to you. First question was, did the general, you know, consult with the elders and Biafrans people before going to war? That was his first question. According to him, there were some arguments that he did not consult. All right. That was the first question. And then the second question was, who were those in Gakem that actually, you know, defended Biafra land when the war started in Gakem? So I don't know if you got the two questions.
Yeah, I'll tackle the second one first. The Gakem were the Biafran soldiers, yes? So what happened, as I said, there were people who returned from other parts of Nigeria who were actually in the military at the time. So they were deployed. We had the command of the northern Biafran area. There's the riverine region around Onitsha, and then of course around Port Harcourt. So there's battalions being formed to try and defend areas of Biafra land. So there were Biafrans all over. They can come from any village, any town to join the army. I remember when one of the villages I was in during the war was attacked on Christmas Day, 1968. Yeah, the Nigerian troops opened up and the rifle was flying over, the bullet was flying over our head. So the Biafran soldier that turned up with his rifle said to us, "Ban onolo odi fole." Now, let me explain what I'm saying by that. He said, go inside is nothing. Now this is Owerri. Now, that accent is not Owerri. So he could have come from other part of the country. So in other words, not people in Gakem defending
It sounds
Gakem.
like a Hofia. It sounds like a Hofia or Abreba language, yeah.
Exactly. It could be. So what I'm saying to you, Biafran soldiers were made up of people from various parts of the country. My uncles, some of them fought in Ikechukwu. Some fought in Uzakoli, with bullet wounds and so on. So you went anywhere your unit sent you. So those in Gakem would have been from any part of Biafra land. That's really my take on it. Now, coming back to the Ojukwu asked the elders, the first question you ask yourself when you ask a question like that, did Gowon ask anybody before he invaded Biafra? Yeah? He didn't ask anybody. Yes. You're coming to kill you. Yes. So you're going to have a meeting with chiefs and elders. You said, I know, my brothers and sisters, my elders, look, they're killing us. What should we do?
What should I do? Should we die?
Yeah. So I think when you think about questions, you just look at the whole picture. It's not Ohaneze time. You are about to be wiped out from the planet. It's an existential fight.
You don't need a permission. Sorry, doctor. You don't need a permission to defend yourself. Yeah. Self-defense is alienable. It's alienable. Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Self-defense is an inalienable right. So, and we are very, very fortunate to have had Ojukwu as the head of state. He's 33, 34 at the time. So he should talk to the elders. Yeah? He should go and ask them permission. Should we go and defend ourselves or stand here and get wiped out? That's the wrong question. And we need to ask the right questions. The right question is, did the elders come to him with advice of how best to fight? Yeah? But Ojukwu is in the military, in the modern warfare. This is not your village versus another village with knives and bows and arrows. This is a modern warfare. And the people we had were trained by the best. They were trained by British at Sandhurst. So they know what they're talking about. Did they need advice? Well, we'll talk about it another time because the Biafran, if you like, population are the such that you can't dictate to. So they were incorporated in the Ahera Declaration. The actual fight became a Biafran revolution in the sense that it becomes a people's war. Now, the problem with that is that you should allow people to do the job they're trained to do, not allow the civilians to come and tell the military, come and tell us what you're going to do to capture Willie. Yeah? Okay? What are you doing to capture Willie? Here, a civilian doesn't know how to fire a gun. Asking a military man, how are you going to capture Willie? What are you doing about it? And causing trouble. So it's very, very important in a war situation. You can have, it's not Ohaneze, what do you call it? Not that I have anything at the moment. Okay? No, I'm condemning them. There's a structure in place. This is a military warfare, modern warfare. You don't ask permission to defend yourself, as MAZI IKECHUKWU has said. So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Absolutely.
But just ask questions.
All right. Let's get to the next person. I think I have a caller on WhatsApp again. Caller on WhatsApp, can you hear me? Caller on WhatsApp, please. I've picked your call. Can you speak to us? All right, let's try the next caller on WhatsApp. Caller on WhatsApp, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening, MAZI.
Good evening from here. Please, your names and where you're calling from. Then you ask your question.
Okay, my name is MAZI IKECHUKWU. My question is, why is it that there were a lot of sabotage during that period? Why was hello, MAZI, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Okay. My question was, why was there a lot of sabotage during the war? Why was because some other part of Biafra that are not Igbo says that Biafra soldiers were in their village killing them, and some people that Ojukwu sent to buy weapons, they went away with the money. And today we are witnessing the same thing in Biafra in Biafra struggle. So that's just my question. Thank you much.
Thank you very much. MAZI, the question is, why were there so many Ifa Junas during the war? He wants to know why were there so many Ifa Juna? That's the number one question. And then, of course, the second question. The people sent to go and buy a weapon. Why did they run away with our money? Just like they are doing today again. I don't know if you get the question.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Let me answer the second one first.
Yes.
The second one, it says, you give people money to go and buy weapons.
They ran
and
away.
They didn't return.
Yeah.
They bought houses and things with it. Okay? And it's true to a certain extent, but there are some who managed to buy the weapons. Okay? The issue here was involving and telling your elders, isn't it? Telling the civilians. If, according to the commander of the Biafran army, you allowed the military to send a delegation to go and buy the weapons, yeah, it is likely that they're not going to go and buy houses with it, okay? And they are going to buy the right equipment which is needed by those on the field. And they'll buy the right calibers, and they know if something is missing, yeah, when they're buying the equipment. So the commander felt sometimes the weapons that were given to them did not have the right fuse, did not have the right weapon, you know, if you like, how can I put it? Did not have the right mechanism for firing, okay? Because they were bought by civilians, and the mentality was, while you people are soldiers, you shouldn't be going out to buy weapons, we're going to buy it for you. You see, there's some logic in that, but you need the weapons. You have to understand what you're buying in the first place. So that allowed a loophole for people to buy rubbish, and those who managed to buy bought what they felt they can afford to buy, okay? And the second thing was that those who felt they can get away with it pocketed the money. And you should realize this happens in every human endeavor. There's a good, the bad, and the ugly in behavior, in character. And you're not going to abolish it because you have Biafra. Yeah? There are people who are set to, to disagree with you. You scold them for one reason or the other. They turn saboteurs. Yeah? The saboteur in the war, it's not something that's happened. There's a name called Quisling. Yeah? Who sided, I think in Norwegian or so, who sided with the Nazis. So Quisling is his name. There's in Timophily, when the Greek were being attacked by the Persians, somebody led them through a path to overcome, is it the 200 Spartans, yeah? So it went around and allowed the Persians to defeat the Greek. So if you think you're going to have a struggle where you don't get saboteurs, stop. You have to wake up. Stop kidding yourself. Even people in your own household, the scripture says, are the ones that will betray you. So get over it and do what is right. So, but if you're sending somebody to go and buy your weapon, make sure there's another person who covers and oversees them. That's what we didn't do right. Okay? There are lots of mistakes, and I'm glad we're discussing them now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MAZI. Let's go back. I think caller on WhatsApp, you are back. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, MAZI. Please, your name.
Am I coming out clear?
Loud and clear. Your names, please. Where you calling from and your question.
I greet you, our elder. I greet my fellow Biafrans, genuine IPOB members, and all the members of the DOS. The question I have is this. Sir, will you be kind enough to tell us, explain to us, do you think that the Biafran of then, would have been better than the Biafra of now because of the level of sabotage? By then, there was not much sabotage as we do have today. So what do you have to tell the youth with this form of agitation we are into now? Are you encouraging us as our father? Because you know that most of these people, the present, the so-called obedient youth, some of them, they are discouraged because of the division. So what are you telling us concerning the earlier Biafrans and the present one?
All right.
I greet you.
All right. Thank you very much.
I made,
yes, I understand.
Question is,
I got your question, Mazi. I will relay your question. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Doctor, the question goes like this. Can you please compare the Biafrans of 1967/71 and the Biafrans of today? And what is it that we need to learn from those? Or do you think that the Biafra of those days are better than the Biafra of this day? And why are there so much sabotage and disobedience in the Biafrans of nowadays? I don't know if you got the question.
Okay, yes, a very interesting question, actually. Okay, let's go back to the Biafra, what I call the class of 66 to 70. The first thing to mention is that when we're talking about saboteurs, yeah, say there's this song, Ewo Muna one name J-Rock Abiego Ifajunelelani Ewo Muna one name J-Rock Okay, so that is the song the Biafran soldiers marched into battle with. That's how angry they were. Okay? So they named the people who betrayed them and they marched into battle. Now, they weren't happy that they had saboteurs in their midst. Okay? Because it was unthinkable that you can be killed in the north, in the west, and everywhere outside Nigeria. Come to your own country and people still want to go back into Nigeria. They want Biafra to lose. I can understand those who were in the periphery, the areas surrounding Nigeria when they were first captured. The enemy can turn them because you have your village has now been captured. Some of them became used as an opportunity to settle scores. They go on the Nigerian side and start pointing out their enemies to the enemy. You see what I'm saying? So it does happen. It's just human nature. I'm not saying it's acceptable, but saboteur in those days, there weren't many. They were rare. But all you need is one rotten apple to spoil the whole thing, isn't it? Even if the saboteur is one person, it's bad news. But what I'm saying to us, maybe before I say that, the current situation, you now have over 50 years, okay, of what has happened to us as a people. You now have over 50 years. People have now, as somebody pointed out earlier, have been to settle in the north. They have hotels. They have houses in Abuja. They are
Mazi, can you still hear me? All right. I think, Mazi, you have put your call on hold. I am not hearing you anymore. All right. I think we're having a bit of a problem here. Our guest line is on hold. I am not sure why that is the case. Mazi Okachi, can you hear me? Unbelievable. All right. I'm not sure why that is the case.
The suffering, you didn't see the war. If you saw the war, it would not be happening, and so on and so forth. So that is the issue we have. I don't think personally there are more saboteurs now than there were before, okay? Because there's the good, the bad, the ugly. But if there's a condition conducive to Biafra restoration, then there'll be less sabotage, in my opinion. But we have to create that condition, unfortunately. Okay? So do not despair. You know, there will be saboteurs, but we have to overcome them, like every situation. Yeah? Thank you.
All right, Mazi, your summary, if you can just summarize so that we can bring today's program to an end. I think we have done justice to the question of today. Please go ahead.
I got meetings to attend as well. Waiting.
Okay,
well, well, Biafrans, I thank you all for listening. There's a lot clearly that we can. There's a lot we have learned over the past few broadcasts, how the war started, where we were before the war started, and so on and so forth. But the issue now is they are still killing us. We want this killing to stop. Okay? We want our people to progress. So if you're still sitting on the fence, it's not going to happen. Join the Biafran restoration struggle. Join IPOB under MAZI IKECHUKWU, so that we can all put hand, as MAZI IKECHUKWU tell you, we are holding ourselves. We are the ones stopping us. The enemy calls you Biafra. So why do you call yourself Nigerian when there's no such thing as a Nigerian, as you have in the sense of the French person, a Welsh person, a German, a Japanese? You don't have such a thing as a Nigerian. You're a Biafran. You're a Arewa. You're Yoruba. You understand? So if the situation we find ourselves in is not conducive to our overall survival, why not create an environment where you can thrive and survive? So the restoration of Biafra is key. Everything else is secondary. Because when Biafra is restored, then you'll be able to, progress as a people. And the restoration of dignity, your dignity will be restored throughout the whole world. And when you pass through an airport, you carry a passport which the world will respect. And then you've arrived as a human being and not someone being treated as an animal all the time. Okay? So those are my... I thank MAZI IKECHUKWU and indeed the rest of the crew for listening. And maybe we have more sessions like this to get people to express their views and learn more about the history of what's happened to our people. Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mazi. And of course, we will discuss, as time goes on and see on which angle we will be coming. And I think the interactive session makes a lot of sense so that people can get more involved and ask, questions here and there and get some clarifications. All right.
Indeed.
Thank you very much once again, Doctor, for coming through.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much. And of course, that was Dr. UKACHI-LOISE. And of course, doing what he knows how to do best. We thank him so much this evening once again for coming through, of course, to teach us history as we know them to be. And it has been indeed a lovely one here on Constructive Argument.
This is Constructive Argument on Radio Biafra with MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA. Bring your argument and we've got the solution. Constructive Argument. We hit below the belt. Radio Biafra. We've got you covered. This is Constructive Argument on Radio Biafra with MAZI IKECHUKWU ONUOHA. Bring your argument and we've got the solution. Constructive Argument. We hit below the belt. Radio Biafra. We've got you covered.
All right, it is indeed so. Constructive Argument coming to you live and direct here from Radio Biafra. Of course, Hello Motherland is where you're at this evening, the first day of October, the first day where the fool called Nigeria is turning to be a fool at 62 and a fool forever. And of course, we are here doing the needful to recollect and of course, understand who we are and where we are coming from, that we are Biafrans. And to say to you one more time before I close, na Chineke alụsigo ya, onye nwe ụwa alụsigo ya, Biafra kwulugo. What is holding us back and what is still holding us back in Egypt is our attitude and our evil intent and motive, because nothing unclean will enter the kingdom of Chukwu Okike Abiama on this planet Earth, that kingdom that is called Biafra, the land of food and water, the land that flows with milk and honey. Let's listen to this song again. Alụsigo ya, onye nwe wee kwụsịgo okwu, anyị wee nwe obodo dị mma, obodo nke Biafra. And like I said, the only thing that is holding us and pushing us backwards and delaying the occupants of that land is us. Until we free ourselves from the unwanted, because no unclean mind, no unclean soul will enter that promised land of Biafra. From me this evening I say a well and a very big thank you to our doctor, our guest this evening, Dr. Justice Louis Okachi, as well as Biafrans all around the world, those who have called in to ask their questions. We will be bringing you more of this as the week comes by. From here and from me, it is goodbye, and may God bless Biafra. May God keep our leader, MAZI and give him a speedy freedom unconditionally. Goodbye and God bless.
Biafra Alpha Power Media International.